They will learn of our S-tier ways by force. So, coming in bottom place, we have got the fucking Death Watch. I mean, is anyone surprised? It's basically a dead faction. I'm not happy about it. Don't get me wrong, I fucking love Death Watch. I would love to have a Death Watch army at some point. But when you've got 823 players, and out of that, only 3 of them are turning up with Death Watch, that's pretty abysmal. The fact that they've got so few players in a busy weekend and their results, they're the silt on the bottom of the Mariana Trench. So they're not doing very good is the main takeaway there. So 3 players getting 6 wins out of 15 games, coming in with a 40% win rate. So Deathwatch overall have, not have a 41% win rate, but this week and overall with the Black Spear Task Force, they've got a 34% win rate. If you're bringing Deathwatch, might as well bring the detachment. It's so... I know we've had quite a lot of hyperbole up until this point, and if you remember, they had that, do 20 mortal wounds or something, or maybe even 40 mortal wounds, I don't know. But it was 800 points. I might be exaggerating, but it was if you did this build, yes, in theory, you could put out a shitload of mortal wounds, but your entire army was 30 Marines and 2 characters. And it was such an amazing combo that before the game even officially released, GW nerfed it. So we never actually got... And I actually said it's not a broken combo at all. I can tell you right now, if I was facing that with guard, I'd just basilisk them. It was 30 Marines, which could only have the equivalent of bolters, essentially. So it wasn't even there's anything else going on. If someone marches 30 Marines at you across open map, you're just gonna kill them. No matter what army, you were gonna kill them. But it's funny how Deathwatch received that nerf, and then it didn't do anything. It's a shame. I actually quite like Deathwatch's faction. They should be gracing our tables. Now, moving on, we then have a bit of a surprise. A surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. We've got Space Marines. I did not think we would see Space Marines this far down. There's been a lot of chit and chat about Marines since their codex dropped, and you would have thought that Space Marines were very, very powerful and very, very good. But and they've got the player numbers. Yeah, they've got the player numbers. 45 players makes them one of, if not the most played faction this week. Let's have a look. No, not quite. They are the 4th most played faction. I just, by the way, love the fact that there are basically as many guard players as Space Marine players. Faction. So they've got the numbers, but unfortunately the numbers aren't translating into the wins. Now, it's important to remember that Space Marine wins do tend to be somewhat suppressed by the fact that they are the entry-level faction. Even at this stage, we'll have 2 boxes of the equivalent thereof of 2 boxes of Leviathan smashed together. They might have just got the first 2,000 point army. They've turned up to the local GT that the club's running. They might have played a couple of RTTs thinking they're hot shit, and then they get fisted, essentially. 45 players, 93 victories still means that there's plenty of... Just that number alone, that they've got 93 victories. There's you can get some wins in with the old Marines. Out of 227 games, they had 3 players who went either undefeated or only dropped 1 game. So that's what I mean, low player numbers, but there's still a high raw victory number, and they still have some players that are able to take the faction all the way. So they're not a bad army in any way, shape, or form. I think that they're being slightly artificially suppressed. We look at some of the differences here. The Vanguard Spearhead is the most popular and has a 45% win rate. Ironstorm Spearhead not too far behind that with 43% win rate. Firestorm Assault 40% win rate. Gladius Task Force 37% win rate. So really, out of all of the Space Marine detachments, there's only one that seems to be a bit of a flop, and that is the Stormlands Task Force. I feel like Yes, it does have 61% here, but with these very low numbers, it's kind of what we were talking about before, how low numbers can skew things in the wrong direction. I think it's, for me, the number one takeaway here is how the Ironstorm Spearhead has changed. Ironstorm was slated to be the most powerful when the Codex first dropped. And that was the one that everyone rushed to. And that is the one that probably has the most raw punch. The problem with Ironstorm is now that Whirlwinds are, very, very much dead, you're relying purely on like direct firepower. As you're playing on player place terrain, you ain't getting direct firepower. You need indirect. And so the big problem is that the you can just hide from the Ironstorm if you want to. So Ironstorm is still very powerful, but you can see people realizing, shit, man, it's all well and good having tanks that can kill stuff, but what if someone just stands on circles better than me? And then what if someone just does secondaries better than me? Because you're very elite, so you're quite concentrated, so you don't have that much screening and stuff. That's one thing that I remarked on when I kept encountering Ironstorm Spearhead. I was just going wherever I wanted because there's no screening. Then you get the dilemma of, well, I'll take some firepower out to put some more flexibility in there, and then suddenly you're not getting much use out of your Ironstorm Spearhead. Keep taking stuff out to add in more tactical flexibility, suddenly firepower is becoming less of a focus. I don't think Space Marines are in a bad place. As you can see, Vanguard, someone did manage to go, 2 people managed to go undefeated, or only lost 1 game. The Gladius, same with the Gladius Task Force, 1 person did manage that. Gladius is always going to be a staple. Gladius is like the noob faction. So that's why you've got 13 people on it, a terrible win rate, and yet 1 person did manage to go undefeated. Because it's still a good all-rounder, and it can still do okay in events, but it's the one that all the noobs are going to start off with. But yeah, Space Marines, I think that is overall an artificially suppressed win rate, but I would say give Space Marines a little bit of time. They might be struggling a bit, so I think they should be on the radar for buffs, but not. I don't think they need a knee jerk just yet. Now, Orcs, you might be surprised at this result. 33 players shows a healthy player base. 70 wins shows that with 3 players going undefeated or only dropping 1 game, but overall only a 42% win rate, which is significantly down from 47. Now, when you have such a large drop like that, it tends to be a bit of an anomaly. Probably be back up to about sort of 44, 45 next. But it's not 50%, is it? It's not 60%. Orcs aren't doing great. And there's a very simple reason for this. Orcs is very simple. You either survive pressure or you don't. Orc tactics, almost universally. And if I can either overwhelm you or keep you busy enough whilst I've got a few cheap units going for the points, then I win. But if you kill me quickly enough, I lose. You would think that would be like 50-50, like 50% of the time it works every time. The problem is, as metas mature and as factions go longer without updates and rely upon similar tactics, the trickle down knowledge and the gestalt consciousness of the non-orc players goes up. And so you find that people start, you face orcs once or twice, you get the measure of them, and then it becomes relatively simple to beat them. The pressure, the psychological pressure doesn't get to you, and if I just kill this unit and this unit, that'll slow them down. Then next turn get that unit and that unit, and it starts, without even thinking about it, you start playing like 3 turns ahead. So orcs are a pressure army, but they've been doing the same tactics. I've literally faced if you look at my tournament reports, whenever I play against orcs, you'll literally see me use the same tactic against them every time. And even when I was running a meme like a Titan, I still didn't lose against orcs. You screen them out, shoot them down. And once you know that, it's very hard for the orc player to do much about it. So we'll see. Obviously, when the orc codex comes and they get all sorts of crazy stuff and detachments like speed freaks and Dakar orcs and all sorts of crazy things, we'll see. I think that's when Orcs will shine. I think right now Orcs are struggling because they've only got the one detachment and the one sort of tactic. So for the Orcs, their codex literally can't come quick enough. It doesn't even need to be overly powerful. It just needs to make them much less predictable. That's the big thing. Tyranids. Now, Tyranids they're waning a little bit. Factions do wax and wane. And 31 players is nothing to sniff at. But they were a starter box faction. You expect them to have more players than things like Orcs. The thing with Tyranids, it's quite simple actually. They just can't fucking kill stuff. And yes, you might find that kind of ironic because we just said that people were moving away from killing stuff with like the Ironstorm Spearhead. It's not that people are moving away from killing stuff. Marines still, are going to beat you up and take your lunch money. They're still going to, they're still going to be able to do damage. Tyranids just don't do damage. In a meta of vehicles and monsters, not having much anti-tank is not ideal. And the big thing is that most of their anti-tank does come in the form of close combat, which is another big problem because then you can't deal with mech. You kill the Rhino and then the thing that's actually going to hurt you gets out and kills you. And that's kind of the issue. Now, you can see most people are still going for the invasion fleet. That's not surprising because the invasion fleet does give you some damage. So the invasion fleet is good because it allows you to having somewhat of a threat. You're still going to struggle with AP, still going to struggle. You can hose down as much as you want with Termagant Blobs. It's on a 2-up save. It's going to struggle. But at least it allows you to be able to threaten in some way every target. But yeah, good results from the invasion fleet. 18 players, 43 wins out of 93 games. Every single player that went undefeated or only dropped one game for the Tyranids was running invasion fleet. It is quite clearly a powerful detachment. And it seems to be fairly consistent. Being at 46% this week and 47% overall is very... it's kind of indicative that it's somewhat settled into a comfy position. And that's good. Being 46-47% is a very respectable win rate in this racket. Means that you're not overpowered. Means that you can go to a tournament, confidently come away with either 2-3 or 3-2. You might win your first couple of games and then get paired, then work your way up the tables and get knocked down again round 3. But then you'll have a good sort of second day at the GT. It really isn't a bad win at all. What's interesting for me personally is how these ones have all dropped off. Vanguard Onslaught at one point, everyone was wanking that so much that the only thing coming out of the end was bloody dust. That's all that was happening. And now people are like, fuck it, don't like it. I think at the end of the day, Vanguard Onslaught, it's all well and good being sneaky as fuck, but if you have absolutely no way, if you've not even got bloody lethal hits or anything, you can't hide from certain armies. Certain armies are going to run up to you and chop you to pieces. And so yeah, Vanguard, I always thought like the whole I'm just not going to engage with you at all. It's a bold strategy. It worked up to a point, but people will adapt to that fairly quickly. Synaptic Nexus, I don't know much about that, but I've never seen it really take off. Same with Crush Stampede. I've literally never seen anyone run Assimilation Nexus, whatever it is. So yeah, but the big one for me here is this one, Unending Swarm. Now, Unending Swarm is a nightmare for some people to deal with. Some factions just can't deal with it. But the problem is that if you can, it's kind of like Orcs, right? Look at this. The Unending Swarm detachment's got a very similar win rate to the Orcs. It's going to run at you. It's going to keep you under pressure. You're going to have to spend turn after turn slaughtering little bugs, while some other little bugs, and maybe a few big bugs, certain objectives and make life a bit hard for you. If you try an Unending Swarm, someone like World Eaters, they're going to cut through every bug you've got in a turn or two. You try and run an Unending Swarm against, Guard, they're going to shoot every bug, and then they're actually going to have fun in combat with you because Guard will beat you in combat. Which Guard don't beat a lot of faction in combat, but they beat Termagants in combat. I've done it many, many times. So that's the reason why Unending Swarm isn't a bit higher. You can stand on all the circles you want, but This is 40k. If you give someone the opportunity to blow you off the table, they'll probably take it. We get to AdMech. This is just a bit sad, really. The AdMech have just not had a good time in 10th edition. They came out and were boring and had like one tactic, and everyone pinned all the hopes on the Codex. And then the Codex came out, still got one tactic. I'm not actually saying AdMech are bad. I'm just saying AdMech are kind of boring. I have seen precisely 2 people with AdMech. All the RTTs, all the GTs, I've seen 2 people with. And again, that's not just because I'm in a local area. I've travelled up and down the country for different tournaments. I've just not seen anyone run them. Kind of reflected in the fact that, you know, they've only got 13 players. Yeah. Yeah. God, like, but it's weird because I hear that AdMech were the most absolute galaxy brain faction in 9th. I think in 9th they were extremely powerful but also extremely complicated, and they were one of the first factions to get a codex, and so they had a perception of being massively broken and overpowered. But then as every other codex came out, they basically just fell down the tier lists, and it turned out the codex wasn't that great because it was just too... It was powerful, but people just could get wins easier. And AdMech, I think right now, are just... For me, it's just sad because the codex came out and didn't change anything for them. I don't play AdMech, and like I said, I don't have good optics on them. Yeah, I very much base my analysis on what I've encountered, or what I've seen, or what I know firsthand. AdMech are a bit of a blind spot for me. It seems like the codex has not done much to revitalise people's enthusiasm for the faction, which is a big sad. And just a little side note here, I don't think AdMech are a bad faction in terms of them being like interesting. I think the models are beautiful. I think the lore behind them is great. I feel like they're truly grim dark. Like if you read AdMech lore, they are not. They're on a different level. I think they're one of I think they are one of the evilest Imperial factions. Just so far, they're so far removed from humanity in many ways. Okay, moving on. We've then got Genestealer Cult. My, how the mighty have fallen. Turns out that the day of ascendancy is not nigh. It's crazy. Well, this is one of the reasons why to be honest, is one of the reasons why I've come back to doing the Meta Mondays. Because things have changed. Last time we did Meta Mondays, we were coming off like a 6-week streak of Eldar top, Genestealer next, Eldar top, Genestealer next. So I watched the F1. It's like Max Verstappen wins every race, like Eldar wins every race, and it was the same people like who's coming in, like, you know, it was really what was going on in the mid tables that was more interesting. Now it's all flipped on its head. I used Genestealer Cult when they had infinite free units, and it was really fun. And it wasn't just fun for me; it was actually fun for my opponent as well, because I played against a guard guy. And he like advanced them at the board and then started getting surrounded on all sides, and he ended up literally having to like fight back to back. Like every time he tried to advance, like units like pop out and ambush him and everything. And I actually got that on Battle Boys, one of the first battles that I did in 10th edition, and it was really fun because and he got to the end of it, and I was worried like, oh man, it feels a bit shit that he's not been able to, you know, it feels a bit shit that it was a bit of an overwhelming battle. And he got to the end of it and went, that was great. That was an amazing game, because I just felt like I was actually fighting the Genestealer Cult. They were coming out the goddamn walls. I smashed them, but they kept coming back. So it was you know, it's rare when the guard feels like they're getting out reinforcemented. And then I think GW just came in and just they double nerfed them. I think Genestealer Cult is one of those armies that people just kind of have them on the shelf. I know I've got mine on the shelf. But when they're good, people get them out, and when they're bad, they just go back on the shelf, and people just sort of keep them as a little side project. It's not that difficult relatively. I mean, it is difficult, you know, fundamentally, but in comparison to certain factions, they've not got a tiny roster, they've not got a huge roster. So you can kind of like, I mean, that's what I did with my GSC. I bought basically 2 of every unit, and whenever they're good now, I'm like, cool, and whenever they're bad, I'm like, yeah, just put them away. But they're not doing badly. For, you know, having a mid-40s win rate is good. I mean, there were times when guard players and many other factions would kill to have a 4 in front of their win rate. And that's the big thing for even the bottom faction still got 40%. So the gap is narrowing, which is good. We're getting a bit more balanced every patch point. Nice. So we've got Chaos Space Marines. Welly Wellington. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Shit. Man. At one point, slated to be the Inheritors. Slated to be the Kingslayers. Slated to take down the Eldar or replace them after their nerf. And now look at these guys. Where are they in the pack? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 from the bottom. 19 out of 26 factions, something like that. It was the nerf being, I can target you within 18 inches, which is huge. And it was the Forge Fiends. Because getting within 12 inches when screened out, really hard to do. Getting within 18 inches, tricky but not impossible. And the numbers aren't bad, but they're not up there. And people, I think a lot of people jumped onto Chaos. They jumped onto Chaos. They fucking squeezed the juice, squeeze, and then drank the orange juice, and then were like, nerfs incoming, boys. Peace out. Time for the next faction. I mean, 25 players, the 44% win rate, and 2 people going the distance. 60 raw wins and 135 games. It's not bad. It's definitely not where they once were. I mean, I played against them recently, and they felt very powerful, and they did beat me, but I reckon if I played them again, I could have them. I think I think they're in a good spot. Powerful, but not overpowered. This is 40k. If you ain't overpowered, you ain't shit. If you ain't overpowered, you're underpowered. Oh my god. From Chaos, we have Chaos Knights. Mr. Mordian, what do you want? I want us to reach forth! I want us to be meta again! Chaos Knights. I mean, Knights be knighting, right? Knights be knighting. Basically, right, you either bring enough firepower to kill the Knights, or you don't. You either win the game, or you don't. I still see a lot of Chaos Knight people just spamming the baby Knights. The Chaos Knights all seem to hit on 2s, which is kind of cool. Either the shooty ones hit on 2s, or the choppy ones hit on 2s, but they always seem to hit on 2s, which is kind of cool. But I have to be honest, a bit of a blind spot for me. I haven't seen much evolution in the local Chaos Knight meta in my area. It seems to be lots of baby Knights, and then occasionally someone will bring a big Knight or 2, but it still seems like a lot of baby Knight. Knights used to be really, really powerful, but I don't know if it's just me. Let me know what you guys think about this. This is a hot take incoming. Awooga. Chaos Knight, Imperial Knights. They've not been broken, overpowered, or S tier since allies went away. When you could have Knights and a loyal 32, they were good. When you could have Knights and plug them in to all sorts of the 7th edition, the war convocation, stuff like that, they were good, but they don't get the army benefits or anything like that anymore. Since allies got watered down, Knights got watered down. Blood Angels, or as I like to call them in this meta, Red Marines. Yeah, I mean, Blood Angels are doing very well right now, and you can see that they have got 45% win rate, decent player numbers, one person going all the distance, and that person going the distance is in the Ironstorm Spearhead. But remember that Blood Angels actually do choppy. So basically, what happens is you take all the guns, and then if you encounter an army that is going to hide from you, you send in the Death Company. and you're fine. Most Marine chapters aren't that choppy. Blood Angels can have the cake and eat it. They got direct firepower. If someone tries to hide them, they're just going to burst through the wall, shank them, and take the lunch money. Morty and Glory eats corn the long way. So moving on, we're getting into sort of the middle of the pack now, and we've got World Eaters. World Eaters are seeing very healthy numbers. Considering how limited their roster is, it's like Berserkers, 2 Flays of 8 Bound, and Angron. The fact that they've got higher player numbers than a venerable Longbeard faction like Blood Angels is noteworthy. You don't need a lot of them to get up to 2,000 points. Angron, they're not saying they're cheap. They're not like Custodes. It's just it's Angron, couple of units of Berserkers, couple of units of 8 Bound, season with the last 500 points, kind of what you want, sort of thing. When you run World Eaters, sort of the pressure can kind of be off. You just sort of run at people, you chop them up. Fine. The thing that's kind of holding them back, though, is Custodians are doing well again. So that, when Custodians are doing badly, World Eaters do well, and vice versa. What's also holding them back a little bit is they go first, it's a big help. They don't go first, it's a lot dicier. And the other thing that's holding them back is Angron is a crutch. Angron is a huge crutch. If you get rid of him and then he doesn't come back, you're just fucked. Also, you're one-dimensional. So you somewhat suffer the same problems that Tyranids have, which is my enemy hiding inside a metal box? Fundamentally, a one-dimensional army like this that has basically one play style. The World Eater, the 9th edition, literally, it was like, lose a unit, get victory points. Kill enemy unit, get victory points. Hold an objective, get victory points. Kill enemy unit on objective, get victory points. Lose one of your units on an objective, get victory points. World Eaters started games with like 80 plus victory points in the bank. It was like 50-50 on secondary. It's like 50 points prime, 50 points secondary. They basically started with 50 secondary points. That's when they were really, when they just got all their points for free. It was great. Now they don't get all their points for free. You can see cracks in the faction appearing a little. Death Guard. Now these guys are interesting. Death Guard are, in my opinion, somewhat in the ascendancy. 52 players is a really, really strong amount. I said from the beginning of the 10th, those things were good. They're doing all right. They can kill characters. As Vincent said, Typhus is a bit of a character killer. And they've got good combos. Mortarion isn't a crutch. I've seen lists do very well with Mortarion. I've seen lists do okay without him. He is expensive, but he brings a lot to the table. If you build around him, you will get your money's worth out of him. So yeah, Death Guard they are solid through and through. You're never going to get flattened. You've got a good Death Guard list and you've got a few practice games on your belt, you'll come away from any tournament with a couple of wins, if not more. After we've got Thousand Suns, bit of a blind spot for me. Just seems like Thousand Suns are doing exactly what they've basically done from the beginning, which is few good data sheets, and a good army ability. That's kind of it. Well, I have to say, all of the Demon Primarchs seem to be very tasty right now. Magnus, and seems like it's a good time to be a Demon Primarch these days. Yeah, I think that the main takeaway from Thousand Suns for me, based on what you guys are saying, is they have got a good centerpiece model with Magnus, and they've got a few solid data sheets which they can then pump Cabal points into. Grey Knights has not changed. If you played against Grey Knights before and you screen them out, they're fucked. If you play against Grey Knights and you've got tanks, they're fucked. Even with Dread Knights being a bit better, they're still fucked. The thing about Grey Knights is teleport around and you let them score the points, they're going to win. If they can't teleport around, they lose. They're kind of like Tyranids. In a world of tanks, bolters and fucking swords don't cut it. We've got the Drugari. Sky Splinter Assault seems to have been the penicillin shot into the moldy penis that the faction needed. I mean, who knew that if you gave the faction that likes to jump out of boats and kill people, that they'd do better. Only it's like the Dark Elder detachment. Nature is healing. The faction now works like the faction should work. Look, nobody wants to be running around just spamming Dark Lances. People want to be running guys in boats. They want some Dark Lances, but they want to be jumping out, chop people, jumping out, shooting people. They want to be doing Dark Elder things. And look, and look at that. Look, the player base has healed. Gotta love it. Gotta love a 50% win rate. How would we fix the AdMech? HV preferably in the pricing department by about 40%. HV, I don't mean to alarm you, but you do realise there's a way to get an infinite amount of AdMech models. It's called a 3D printer. So we've got Space Wolves. Space Wolves. 25 players, healthy numbers, 50% win rate, healthy win rate. 48% means that's pretty stabilized. Space Wolves have got very cheap cavalry, and Space Wolves like to charge at you. Imperial Knights. See what I said about Chaos Knights. If you bring enough anti-tank, you beat them. If you don't, you don't. Despite the fact that we've had a lot of points cuts to the big knights, I still feel like people are spamming the little knights with the occasional big knight sort of here and there. Thing is, someone did win an event with them. If you have a look, where is it? Imperial Knights won an event, had 50% win rate. They seem to be doing a lot better. I think you're still gonna have a lot of knight players that just like taking big knights, so that might hold the back a little bit. But they still have the ability to win a local event. But I don't think they're going to be winning any super majors anytime soon. We've then got his Imperial Guard. The Emperor's true finest. Victory is assured. We hold a 50+% win rate, baby! It's bubbling up, boys! Oh my god. Now is our time! One more loud moment. Vindication! I've been saying it since day one of 10th edition. That guard is good. Honestly, not that much has changed. In terms of the winning play style. In terms of the new orders is nice, but the new orders, it's infantry and artillery. It's infantry and artillery, baby. Guard is good. Guard is that's it. In fact, so not only have we got very healthy player numbers, not only have we got 114 wins out of 223 games, not only have we got a 51% win rate, but we had 4 players go the distance. Now, if we have a look here, look at where Guard won a local, came second at a small GT. They then won a small GT, so that's showing you've got 4-1 there, you've got 5-0 there, and you might be saying, Mordian, these are relatively small. Maybe Canada's a little bit out of the way, Finland's a bit out of the way. Maybe it's sort of local matters. Hang on, hold on to your butts. So if we go a little bit higher, we've got Guard coming 4th in a 53-player event. That's a big GT. Well, how about you stick this in your pipe and smoke it? 134 player, 5-round UK Super Major victory, baby! 7-0. That's right. You like that? You want some more? Do you know the guy that won this event was the guy that made the video saying that Guard are going to go could win a Super Major GT, and everyone said he was wrong, and everyone was like, oh, it's just everyone. That's where the Guard S tier meme came from, and this guy went, no, I'll prove it, and he won a Super Major with them. What a fucking hero, man! I'm sure that's the guy anyway. That's what I read from some of the Guard are good. Guard are really, really powerful, and people are jumping on it now. What was the list? It's actually around here. If I can inflict Reddit upon you for a moment. So, Tank Commander with Demartia Cannon, Battle Cannon. Tank Commander with Demartia Cannon and Grand Strategist. Lord Solar, Ursula Creed. 10 Catachans for the Lord Solar. Surprisingly, no command squad there, but yeah, which I do. I don't actually know if they. Yeah, interesting. No platoon command squad is surprising. So 10 Catachans. Why would you give? What, just like some ablative wounds, maybe? Interesting. I really hope this guy. I mean, I doubt it, but I really hope this guy doesn't think that the regular Voxcaster gives you 24-inch range. He should be a very experienced player, so that shouldn't be an issue. But I hope not. 8 infantry for Creed, 10 infantry for Leontis, I imagine. 6 Bulgrin, and then 10 Kazakin, 10 Kazakin, 10 Kazakin. So it might not look like there's a huge amount of infantry here, but the fact that you've got the Bulgrin and the Kazakin, and then you've got these blobs doing stuff as well. Yeah, and then you've got the Chimera. I think the Lord Solar just sits next to the artillery. And because you now know that no one else is taking direct fire, you don't really need. Yeah, so the reason you used to put like the Lord Solar in like a command blob is to extend his order range, but also because you didn't want him to get like targeted by wyverns and killed. Not wyverns, whirlwinds. Now that no one else is taking indirect fire, he doesn't really need a bodyguard. If he's just sitting at back, you don't really need it. So basically, he's gone double Basilisk, double Manticore for the indirect fire. He's got a Scout Mirror, some Scout Sentinels as well, some Scout Kazakin, a big fuck off unit of Bulgrin, and then we've got some direct firepower as well. Now I have to say, like personally, I would struggle. I think I would struggle with this list because I don't feel like it's got screening with the Scout and Kazakin and with the Scout Mirror, and it has got some way of it's just a bit elite for my playstyle, but it's not a bad list at all. It's, different players will have different playstyles and will be more comfortable and do better. Even if there's even if it's a list that looks slightly less efficient, will do better because it fits their playstyle. Whereas I think that this is a very, very, very strong list, but it's definitely, to me, indicative of a player who is good at micro, and that's an experienced player and someone who can clearly go, 7-0. Nakatalo, 7-0 ultra competitive GT winning guard list. MG. It's not a bad list. No, it is good. It's good, and the reason it's good is it's a lot of firepower. But let me boil this down for you guys. It's a lot of firepower that you can't avoid, and it's very maneuverable. It's everything. The vast majority of the firepower you can't avoid, and the vast majority of the non-firepower moves fast as fuck. Scout Sentinels boost the firepower even further, and having that the Chimera and stuff allows you to put durable units onto an objective or push back an early deep striking thing. And then the 2 tank commanders here, if you come across something that's truly, truly gnarly, being able to just be like, I'm going to double Demartia Cannon you, and it's like the Hulk, it's like Iron Man, they're like, go to sleep. That's basically what the Demartia Cannons do to Catan. They're just like, go to sleep. Just because if you roll big on the damage, you can still like slam 3 wounds onto them. And the multi-melter also obviously adds the damage on, and that doesn't get halved. Like, you halve damage, then you add the multi-melter on, which helps as well. So very well done, by the way. Very well done to David for the incredible win, going 7-0 and putting his money where his mouth is, showing that you can do very, very well with them. You know, and it's a good list. It's a list that you need a bit of practice with, or you need to be an innately skilled player. But I think when I'm reading through some of the comments, apparently he played about a dozen practice games with that sort of list, and basically won every single one. And that's when he did the statement saying Guard are S tier, and that's when he went. You know, he I think it was a calculated statement, shall we say? The Manticores are. It's interesting. He's still going for Manticores though. I think it's getting them hitting on 2s. We're on in 1. I often say that you don't need your artillery to hit better than 4s. That is not true when your main damage is coming from them. If your main damage is coming, then you need to hit every single goddamn shot. But if you're just seasoning with artillery, you just need that supporting fire. That's why, like, you might see that he's only got like 2 tanks. I didn't really criticize that because they're not his main damage dealers. But most guard players, I think most people here would admit that they rely on their tanks to do most of the punching. And then, yeah, that's the same for me. That's where I feel naturally my firepower comes from. But in that list, that wasn't the case. There you go. So yeah, guard. I think what that army shows. I think someone put this. Vince M put this before. I think the biggest strength of the guard right now is how flexible they are. If you have a particular guard playstyle, not every playstyle you'll be able to do this with, but if you like the classic Krieg of waves of infantry and artillery, if you like mech guard, if you like hybrid guard, if you like elite guard, and if you like goddamn pure infantry guard, that's a lot of different playstyles, and every single one of those playstyles is going to have 2 or 3 viable builds. And so combined, let's say there's 6, what was it? Like six playstyles. Each one, let's say, has got 3 viable builds. That is 18. Let's say there's 15 to 20. 15, let's say 18 different ways you can play guard competitively. Look forward to our Codex, boys. Come on, Codex. I don't fucking care if I have to fucking if I'm getting my free rules now, baby. I want, if what we said earlier is true, if you're a good faction, your Codex isn't gonna change that. I'm hoping that's true for guard, baby. It's so nice seeing the faction getting the recognition it deserves. And the first one we have is the Black Templars, which are one of, if not the best Marine chapters right now. I mean, Dark Angels kind of have them beat this week. 29 players, 78 victories out of 149 games won, with a 52% win rate this week and a 52% win rate on average, with also 3 tournament wins since the balanced data slate, I believe. They also had 8 players go the distance, which is actually more players than the Dark Angels had go undefeated or drop 1 game. The vast majority of the Dark Angel players are going into the Righteous Crusade, which is cool as fuck. My heart is cooling down somewhat when it turns out that Righteous Crusaders does have one of the worst win rates. The reason why Ironstorm is doing well for the Black Templars is the same reason why Ironstorm is doing well for the Blood Angels. It gives you the shooty, but also you plug the gap with Ironstorm because you got that choppy. You're not wholly and solely relying upon the Daka to get the job done. Also, Helbrecht is a beast. Also, Sword Brethren are a beast. Yeah, they're all beasts. Necrons have the highest amount of players. Highest amount of players. If we look at what, but the thing is, it's obvious that it's not all Necrons. Dynasty Awakened seems pretty normal. Not many players with a decent win. Not many players, but enough to get semi-accurate results. Obsidian's Phalanx, Annihilation Legion, they're too low to really take much account. Canoptic Court looks good. 24 players, 73 wins, 7 people going the distance, 57% win rate, looks really good. But the biggie is Hypercrypt Legion. Now, you might look at these stats and go, well, clearly Canoptic Court is better than Hypercrypt Legion. But remember the mirror match. Hypercrypt Legion is the most popular, which is more likely when Necron versus Necron matches happen, that it's going to be the one involved. I struggle with Crons, and it's the Catan. It's the Catan. They're too cheap. They're too cheap. They're too durable. I think you should have a 4-up invuln and a 5-up feel no pain, no half damage, or a 5-up invuln and a 5-up feel no pain with half damage. But I don't think you have both. But we'll get to the very top soon. Sisters, hey, what is this? Now, this shows how out of touch I am. I don't know why Sisters are doing so well. I don't. Their Whirlwind got like points increase. Their St. Catherine, or one lady, I should say. And they get +1 to hit. You get a squad below half strength. You only have to get them below, you have to lose 5 Sisters and they get +1 to wound. And then, remember guys, it's because of how Melter is half damage. That's true. So, Melter, if you've got a multi-melter, it's +4 on the multi-melter. And the Miracle Dice, it's not so bad. If you can generate, I guess their Miracle Dice are kind of like Eldar dice, but they generate more of them throughout the game. On the first things, they get better later in the game. They start weak but get stronger. Yeah. I mean, and that's sort of playstyle that I'm intimately familiar with at the moment with Guard. I tend to win my games with Guard turn 4, turn 5. I just don't worry about turn 1, turn 2. I'm behind. I don't pull ahead. So Fate Dice is capped. Miracle Dice can be generated. That's a big difference. But it takes a while for them to get going, so you can't just essentially get mag dumped start of the game by the Eldar Fate Dice. But they are going to generate. Yeah, they're going to be there consistently. Wellington. Look what we have here. Ain't it a beautiful sight? I'm not one to revel and wallow in someone else's misery, but I will make an exception for the Eldar. I'm just going to say headshot after headshot. They're still going. I think Eldar are not the boogeyman that they were. I think that they, in the vast majority of, out of the 11 people that went X and 1 or X and O, so I think what you'll find is Eldar are now still going to be the scourge of your local RTT, still probably going to be the scourge of your local GT. There's plenty of. I think that there's always going to be one game where they drop. There's always a game where they drop it. They're very, very powerful, but they're not unbeatable anymore. I mean, Leagues of Votann, I don't think they've had any updates in the last balance patch. I don't think they had any points changes. Correct me if I'm wrong. But they are still cruising. 26 players is pretty healthy for Votann. It's still a relatively new niche faction. 54% win rate over a 49% average does imply this was a little bit of a spike more than anything. If we see that consistently that high, that'll be a problem. But if they hover around 49-50%, they're okay. They didn't win any tournaments. They also suffer from what I feel to be a one-dimensional playstyle. Every Votann competitive game I've been in or I have witnessed has basically fielded the same list with minor variation. And so as a result, I feel like Votann are very powerful and they have some good matchups, but it makes them very predictable. And I don't really see anyone jumping at the gun to make them no one's saying Votann's S tier. They're just saying Votann are just a bit undercosted and their ability is a bit overtuned into certain factions. And look, fucking hell. I mean, is this literally... What do the Custodians get Barkers? They got to feel no pain for dev wounds. Is that it? Is that literally it? What the fuck? That's so weird how they've seen such a resurgence off that. You got a minor points drop as well. I guess we shouldn't have all wished for those Eldar nerfs. I'm happy with that. Yeah, all that sweet damage 3. Although you don't, it still takes 2 shots to kill most Custodians, right? Because they've got either some sort of feel no pain or they've got 4 wounds or something. Yeah, it takes the 4 wound thing kind of cuckolds the old flat damage 3 a smidge. But who would have thought that if you just kept cutting the points of a faction to the level where they actually outnumber and outspam guard, that they'd be really good? Who could have fucking guessed that? Who would have guessed that doing a token nerf to the crisis suits whilst actually bringing down the points elsewhere in the list to the point where actually the points didn't change at all, would have not shifted the faction in any way, shape or form. Tau points, the fact they got any points cuts is wild. Then we get to Dark Angels. 56% win rate. Very, very spicy. Oh, wait, look. It's the Ironstorm Spearhead. I want to say a lot about this, but I've already said it all about 3 times. I think people were looking at Dark Angels through the lens of actually playing them like Dark Angels, which... Of course, an easy mistake to make. All the other, all the other Marine factions start getting their codex. They shouldn't look at what their unique detachment does. That's a waste of time. That's dog shit. Don't give a shit about unique detachment. Instead, look at how good your detachment is at basically abusing the Ironstorm Spearhead. And if you can abuse the shit out of the Ironstorm Spearhead, then go nuts. The most interesting thing here is the Chaos Demons. This is the best bit out of the top 5. So cool seeing demons do well. I think the Chaos Demons are cool. I wouldn't collect them myself because I'm not a filthy heretic. With them getting such generous points cuts across the board, now they can take the same monster mash before, maybe even chuck in an extra monster, and then also have more of the little shit. So now it takes you longer to clear through the little shit if you do that route, which means that the big demons have got longer to smash you in the face, which means they're putting pressure on you, which means you then may not have time to actually clear the little shit out. Current tactics are doing well, and then they've now, they've now got some new tactics which have started to make them a little bit less predictable. The Nurgle debuffs now stacking as per the rules commentary. That's huge. Being able to basically have great and clean ones is like getting you down like -1, -2, -3 toughness, whatever it is. Yeah, be wild. And there we have it. So going through, we have got Demons, Dark Angels, Tau, Adept Custodians, Leagues of Votann, Eldar, Sister Battle, Necrons, Black Templars, Guard, Imperial Knights, Space Wolves, Drukhari, Grey Knights, Thousand Suns, Death Guard, World Eaters, Blood Angels, Chaos Knights, Chaos Space Marines, Geocyclical, Admech, Tyranids, Orcs, Space Marines, and Deathwatch. Overall, the faction with the lowest win rate has got 40%. The faction with the highest win rate has got 57%, which is only a 17% gap. That's a huge improvement. I think at one point Eldar had a 70% win rate. Wasn't it Eldar 70% win rate? A Dark Eldar had a 30% win rate. It was a 40% difference between the top and bottom factions. For a few weeks there, that was what was happening. What's interesting is in many ways things have changed, significantly so. And in many ways, things are still the same. Alright. But all of this is just like my opinion, man. I base a lot of this based on my own. I base all of this off of my own tournament experience. And as I've tried to be clear throughout, I do have some blind spots. If there's any bits that you think I've missed, any takes that you think were a bit too hot and a bit inaccurate, please let me know. I'd be happy to have a little chit, dare I say, chat about the whole thing. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian Glory Hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing, truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members, so thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier patrons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bon Vert, Mad Larkin, Marcus Roberts, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Wolf, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.